Hello, everyone, and welcome to Friends of the Force, a Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Brad.
And I'm your host, Sarah.
This week on the show, we are diving into Star Wars Visions Volume 3. Sarah, one of your and I's favorite Star Wars things, Star Wars pieces of media. Oh, we're so back.
I cried at the Visions 3 panel in Japan, and the lady next to me, gently patted me on the shoulder because she knew I was so excited about this. And now that we're here and we've seen all of these shorts and we've sat with them for a little while, I'm just really excited to talk about it because there are some incredibly fun moments in these shorts, and I don't know. It's exciting to be back in Star Wars storytelling where the sky is the limit and there's no boundaries at all. And it's just what is the most creative thing that these incredible filmmakers can think of? And the fact that they get the opportunity to do it is delightful to me.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you just called out also Star Wars Celebration Japan, which I think it's just worth noting up top that, one, it's wild that we went to Japan earlier this year, but also it's wild that it happened the same year a new Seasons of Visions was dropping, because we got the panel, which unfortunately I wasn't able to attend, but you were able to, like you just mentioned. And we also had that big anime manga pavilion that ran through the whole weekend.
I think I might have also cried in there.
But when you got to see the panel and all the months that you've been waiting since, what have you been most looking forward to with Visions Volume 3?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. I think I was most looking forward to seeing where we were going to go, both with the sequels. I was really curious. Oh, we're picking up some of these stories. What's going to happen? How are they going to continue these stories? Because especially Village Bride, I loved so much. So I was like, where do we go from here? And then for the new stories, it's just what are the styles going to be? I don't know if I had any one specific thing that here's something I'm most looking forward to. I was just looking forward to seeing what was next. I know that's a bad answer to your good question, but
no, I mean, that's a good point. With the sequels specifically, and we'll start our conversation today on those 3 follow-up shorts. I think that was what I was most excited to return with, because you and I loved the Ronin when it first came out, the duel. We read the book, and that was very exciting. I think for me too, Visions Volume 2, I really jived with, and I think it was very cool to see a lot of different animation from around the globe. I will say I was very excited to keep season 3 more focused in Japan and Japanese studios specifically this time around, season 1. So it was kind of nice to go back to that and kind of see what other studios are out there that we haven't seen. And again, just being in Japan this year, it was all the synergy was happening with
the corporate synergy.
Yeah. So it was really exciting to see many new styles, many familiar styles, and reunite with some characters that you and I have loved, especially F.
Especially us in this conversation, and especially F.
Especially F. I think that F is a favorite for many people. F stands for favorite. Honestly,
F stands for favorite. F also stands for fun, and friends. This is a SpongeBob joke that I'm attempting
you
to
and
make.
me.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much.
And is for Ninth Jedi anytime at all?
Oh. Down here in the deep blue sea, the D in down stands for duel.
Oh, I see.
I did my best. On that one.
We're really, really stretching here.
Yeah, I now that I'm thinking about your question, I think I was also really excited to see Billy, the microwave tummy bear droid. Yeah.
Yes, and I hadn't gone to the panel, and during our panel, which was right after at Celebration, somebody had mentioned there was a teddy bear with a microwave in his tummy, and I was like, "What?" I certified Paddington fan. There is going to be a teddy bear in Star Wars that looks like Paddington and has a microwave tummy. And I missed it. I missed the footage. Hello?
You did miss the footage.
Reed Pop, I would like a refund. I'm going home immediately. But no, we're here. And I will say, so many of these shorts lived up to expectation, especially. Let's dive into them. So we're going to talk through the returning stories first up. And then we'll walk through all the original stories, especially highlight our favorites and what really stood out to us. And then we'll close up with some overall thoughts on the future of Visions and what's to come in the years ahead. So, Sarah, which one do you want to start with for our returners,
I
our
think we have
veterans?
I think we have to start with the OG. Like, I think we have to start with the one, because this is the one that I think kicked off the most Visions hype, and that has to be the duel in the incredible style of Duel and the Duel Payback. So just a little bit of background on it. This is by Kamikaze Doga and Anima, and it's directed by Takanobu Mizuno. And obviously this is following up on the story of the duel, which we all lost our shit when Ronin is there holding the saber, the blade between his hands with the force, and that being like the coolest image that came out of, I think, season 1, or the most kind of recognizable Visions image. So to be back with this story was really cool.
Speaking of that image, by the way, that was one of the very first panel of Celebration Japan, the show, quote unquote showcase, but it was kind of a showcase, but more Mando Grogu. When they opened with the big Star Wars montage of all across the franchise, that was one of the shots they chose from Visions.
They had to.
And I was like, Sarah didn't come. Sarah didn't come to this panel. One, she missed Ryan Gosling, but also she missed the Ronin with the hands and the saber in his hands.
Yeah.
You felt the vibration in your body in that stadium.
But I do think that it was okay that I missed Buff Hut. You know?
Tell yourself what you need to, you know?
I will. Thank you. Okay, so the poll for this one is: with the help of some unexpected allies, Ronin faces off against his greatest foe, a twisted Jedi known as the Grand Master, who is bent on revenge. Brad, when you watched this episode, what were your takeaways? How did you feel like it was as a follow-up to the original duel?
I will say one thing I was initially struggling with was trying to remember what happened in Ronin, a Visions novel by Emma Mieko Candon. And that was one of the things that, again, it's been like a couple years since we read that book, and we loved that book very much. But I was also like, okay, wait, when is this book taking place? And then relative to the first short, and I was trying to put the pieces together, and I was struggling. But that's just a me problem.
Brad and I realized we're like, we've read a lot of books. And then I was looking at my bookshelf and I was like, what do I remember from any of these books on demand? And the answer is like less than I wanted to.
Yeah, and this book came out in October 12th, 2021. That is more than 4 years ago.
An entire lifetime ago for us. Anyway, but I think like putting that aside, the continuity of the stories still really is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of the Crusaders and the Grand Master. And from what I remember, the Grand Master was somebody who the Ronin had hurt in the past and caused him to have that injury to his face and require the mask. And I thought the Grandmaster looked especially scary and uncanny because of that architecture on his face.
I sent you a photo of me watching it and me being absolutely terrified at the Grandmaster. I am unsettled. I'm creeped out. I'm freaked out. I'm grossed out. Me and the director, I'll fight him for that. I was so unsettled.
Yeah. But it's interesting because the Grandmaster is sort of in this position as a Jedi now, and he asserts himself as such, but the Ronin is claiming you're not a Jedi, you're not even a man, you're a machine. So there's the Vader comp there, obviously, with more machine than man. And the Ronin kind of no longer in his true Sith ways per se, but I think there's this kind of idea of like, can the Grandmaster really be a Jedi? And what is a Jedi in the first place? Like, how do we actually define what a Jedi is? And as somebody who calls themselves a Jedi and operates within the vicinity of other Jedi, does that automatically make you a Jedi? Is it more about your actions and how you carry yourself that defines you versus the label and what you say? And so this is kind of that, maybe the Grandmaster goes a little bit too close to the sun and gets his wings burned type of thing.
Yeah, and looking at my notes, like I made a note about this thin division of the light and the dark, in or the Jedi and the Sith, and the light and the dark in this story. And I agree with you. Like, what does it really all mean? Is it your actions? Is it your morals? What makes you a Jedi? Because the Grand Master's point of view of like being so bent on revenge and being so broken as a man, that he is completely like lost himself and his way by being so bent on revenge, is so interesting to me. And I think it's when he dies, at the end of this short, after this pretty epic battle, and like the really interesting thing about this is the color, right? Like we get the sabers, we get these hints of color in this show, and we see the color of the purple in his like near his ears, but there's no color at all in his eyes, in his mind. I think he's lost everything. And the color, like and then there's a color like in the bullet hole in his head, or the saber hole like in his head, but there's no color in him. And then he loses the ability to see color when he goes and picks up the saber, and then he picks up the red saber. And so I think this like really thin division like between the light and the darkness and who are you, is just so interesting to me in this short. So I walked away with that you are not even a man, you're just a machine, which was really interesting after being so unsettled by this character for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the ultimate takeaway. It's like no matter what you call yourself, does not matter if your actions are the complete opposite of your of the label you apply, right? Like you gotta actions speak louder than words. The short, this is it, right? And I gotta say, by the way, Ani-san, that was one of the kills of all time in a Star Wars. The lightsaber coming out of her knee, I think it was, or her leg, to stab the Grandmaster in the head. Which also, like, spoilers, we should preface that this is going to be a whole spoiler episode. Which, that's probably a given up front, but like very explicitly, guys, spoilers, listener, be mindful. But yeah, I love this short. I thought the action was great. I thought the art style of the Ronin and the duel and all that looks great. And I would love to see more duel in the future. I think this is a character we could keep coming back to, because I feel like the Ronin's iconography, not only for Visions but for Star Wars, and thinking of Kurosawa, like that is a very I think like his iconography and Star Wars kind of go hand in hand, right? And I think that's why the short is sort of like almost a mascot of the Visions slate of episodes, because he's always the one we gravitate towards because of that, I think.
Yeah, and I think also with this one, it ends on such a playful energy that you really could do anything with it, because like he's on a good spot at the end of this. He's to Ane-san, he's like, our truce is over, bestie. And she's like, yeah, but like, can I keep these lightsaber crystals? Pretty please. And he's like, truce over, let's fight. And then like the shots of them smiling as they start fighting, like it's very playful. It's really fun. And
a little flirty.
Like there could be all sorts of adventures for the Ronin. And that's what makes it kind of fun.
There could be, yeah. I mean, they were in the hot springs together. Who knows? Who knows what happens after this episode?
All sorts of adventures for the Ronin opens up AO3.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, this one I think does get our seal of enjoyment, our seal of approval. I think a worthy follow up for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the Ninth Jedi, Child of Hope, directed by Naoshi Shiotani, and this reunites us with Kara. And Kara, we obviously saw in the first installment of this series, is on a planet, and she's sort of like that Luke archetype in a way of like stranded on the planet, bound for bigger and greater things. She has her dad that she's with, kind of like the Owen Beru Lars comp, right? And her dad gets taken by some individuals and sort of careens her on this adventure to get off planet. And, there's that whole epic battle with all the different Jedi and the Sith guy that shows up in the first season. And here we reunite with her sort of in more of a like an Empire Strikes Back sort of episode where she meets a cute little droid who reminded me a lot of Yoda in the ways that this droid was stranded for quite some time and finally found a companion. And there is a lot of tragedy that made me very sad walking away from this episode with the droid leaving himself behind in order to save Kara and for her to continue her adventure. And there is nothing worse in Star Wars than the droid sacrifice. It makes me sad every time. Why do we got to keep doing this? Why couldn't he go with her? There was enough room in the escape pod.
Yeah.
Come on, low guy.
This one was really interesting because I was actually watching the director's commentary just before we hopped on this recording because it just like came on YouTube. Shout out to the Star Wars YouTube page. And the director said that he modeled Kara off of like original Luke and Luke's original kind of story in the trilogy, which you can really feel. And I think that's interesting about her is that while it feels very different from the story of the original trilogy in terms of what it looks like and how it goes, the themes really shine through in these shorts for sure, and kind of where the parallels lie. And so it was really interesting for me to return to Ninth Jedi because when I went back and watched Ninth Jedi, I realized how much of it I had kind of forgotten. And not in like a bad way, but I don't return to stuff super often. This is why we don't remember anything in the books. Is we don't go back unless it's like The Last Jedi, which I'm pretty sure I could recite for you word from word. It's just in my DNA at this point. But yeah, I went back and I was like, oh, this is why the story of the Ninth Jedi was so interesting and impactful. And this is why we can, I think, so easily see a future of this story of the Ninth Jedi. And to see her Kara in a completely different context in this story, kind of like she's moved on, she's with the Jedi here and they're on adventures. But she so quickly is completely stranded. Was one, very Star Wars, and two, just really interesting to see her differently in this story. So yeah, I like that her saber was green now. I loved Tito the droid. I will say that I think he was my favorite part of this, and I think that's also at points like a symptom that the original trilogy sometimes faces as well, is that like, at least for me, Luke is a cool character, but everybody else around him is cooler than him. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, the story is more interesting than Luke Skywalker, the character. And I think I feel that a little bit when it comes to the Ninth Jedi too. Like, I like Kara, but I feel like everything else that's happening around her is more exciting than her at times. And so it does make me really interested, and we'll talk about the future later at the end of this episode, but like, it does really make me interested to see what the Ninth Jedi series will do with her character as well as the story that surrounds her, because I think that the story itself is so interesting. And how do we continue to like center her in the story to find her dad again and kind of reignite the Jedi? So like, I think there's a lot there.
No, I think partially also like what you're feeling about Kara is maybe because we're still watching her story unfold, right? Like Shiotani had said, this installment is about her decision to become a strong Jedi, and
Right.
he expects her to face more fighting, more sadness, more pain, something serious on the it's going to be this sort of like bittersweet story for her as she sort of tries to find her father. And so what are those trials and tribulations that she's going to face that as we go on that journey with her, maybe grow a little bit closer to her and care and feel more invested in where she ends up. So I think maybe we're supposed to feel that, like how you're feeling at this point. I think there probably are a lot of people who are very attached to her, but maybe for you and I who are sort of can go either way, like we want her to succeed and we want to be invested, and we're excited to see where that story goes in the spinoff series.
Yeah, like I definitely want her to succeed, and I did feel some like I did feel a lot of confidence in her, like in her choice to choose to become a powerful Jedi and to choose to kind of fulfill her own destiny and embrace it. And so yeah, there's a sense of like, ooh, what's next for her, and we're gonna get that, which is really exciting. But I think in this short, I was like, ooh, Tito is so interesting. He's stuck on this abandoned broken ship. The story of his master is so interesting, and like
Yeah.
the way that the animation or like the style in the art is different between Kara and this abandoned ship and Tito the droid is like very interesting to me, because it's clearly like a hundreds of years old war, something that Kara would read about or be told about as opposed to have an understanding of. Um, and I really thought like the grand scale of this ship was so interesting and presented so many interesting ideas about the world that um Kara lives in. It reminds me of like the Zepho and these other kind of ancient, large, like otherworldly sort of beings that we are exposed to in various Star Wars stories.
Yeah, and the that's an interesting call out. The animation styles are different between Tito and Kara, and I think you're right in that it signals the age of not only him but his master, and that's why I drew to the Yoda and Empire
Mm-hmm.
parallel with this episode of like Kara is alone, she is isolated, and you would think like, hey, I'm gonna go show you where my master is, and we're like, okay, we're gonna find the Grand Master that he is here to protect, and then that Grand Master is gonna teach her all these lessons, and she's gonna become a Jedi, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Master's dead, right? The Yoda parallel guy is dead, but really she draws these lessons and to make this decision from a small droid. And I think that is like the most heartwarming thing about this. Shiotani had said that storylines like Yoda's were the ones that moved him, and he liked blending that sort of comical, heartwarming mix of storytelling together, and what really inspires him creatively. And one thing that really stuck out to me was Tito saying only someone who is truly strong has the ability to reveal their weakness to others. I just think it was really cool that it wasn't this Zepho super high intelligent being. It was just a droid who had just woken up and was ready to help Kara, no matter the costs to him or his master or the ship that he came on. And I love that. I love that lesson of just like strength comes from admitting where you have an opportunity to grow, because if you deny yourself that opportunity to reflect and to identify those blind spots within you, you never move forward. And sometimes you got to look at the hard parts of yourself to strengthen.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's just like a lot to mine here in this world of the Ninth Jedi. So I'm looking forward to more excellent themes and more story to be told.
Yeah. And while we're here too, we hear about Nawan,
Oh yeah.
who's trying to exterminate the Jedi. There's like 100 million credit bounty, I think, out for Kara, I believe, or some of the other Jedi she was traveling with. So I'm sure Nawan will become a very important villain in the larger Visions Presents Ninth Jedi series that's coming. And I think you're right in that there's a lot of world building in this story that I'm excited to see expanded beyond just the scope of Kara, for sure.
100%. Does that bring us to what is our favorite sequel of the three?
Yes, which I
Yeah.
believe this is also your and I's favorite episode from season 3.
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
gotta be.
It's the Lost Ones by Kinema Citrus, directed by Hitoshi Haga. Listen, I think me and Kinema Citrus are just besties because they also did Yuko's Treasure. You know? I think me and the style, like whatever they're doing over at Kinema Citrus, we're friends. We're friends.
The animation style is just so good too.
It's so good. So, the poll for this one is: after assisting refugees escape a natural disaster, an incognito F is forced to confront the ghosts of her past when their refugee ship is intercepted by the Empire. When I went to go watch this short, I also went back and watched The Village Bride, as one does, as I did for all three of these shorts, to refresh and enjoy the original shorts again. And I cried watching Village Bride again. So that set me up. That set me up for this one as well. I watched these one after another, and immediately my thought when we got back to F was F. F, my love, my dearest F. That's my girl. That's my girl. I love her to the moon and back. And so I thought that revisiting her, and it was really interesting to me as well that like there's no series name for this for the stories of F. Like The original one was just the village bride, which wasn't her, you know, it was another character in that story. And this one is called the Lost Ones, and that's not her, although it is in a bit, but like she's not the refugees in this sense. And so she doesn't have a serious name. What's her serious name? What's her thing? What's, you know, I don't know. Um but yeah, being back with her was like filled my heart so much. And I just remember just like how much I love and adore this character that I've known for 20 minutes, you know? And I think that the story for this one was really, really interesting as well, because we're getting so many interesting elements of Star Wars, right? I love the score for both of these shorts, which is like classical and gentle, and feels very Star Warsy. We get like the carbonite gas mining, which then is carbon freezing the planet, which is why they're refugees.
That
which I
was
think is
insane.
sick, like sick. And then we also like get another Jedi at this point in time. And then we get this incredible, very Last Jedi-ish, you know, it felt like it was reminiscent of the Last Jedi fight with her master, Shadra. And I was just really felt so warm at the end of rewatching the original and then going in into watching this one. I feel like F's story is so hopeful at the end of the day.
Yeah, that final fight aboard the starship in the field of red flowers. You said it, Last Jedi. I was thinking of the way in which Snoke's boudoir, you know, the red room, and eventually it starts to flame away during the fight once one of the Praetorian Guard swords hits the wall, right? And we see the walls of this ship come down as well to kind of reveal the space outside and the battle that's ensuing. And, you know, meanwhile, within the battle, larger space battle, there's this intimate personal battle happening between Shadra and F, and getting to learn about her master a little bit and some of her backstory, and the fact that Shadra is not who he used to be, right? He's sort of taken on this darker turn. And I think the hardest thing for F is that he is finally recognizing her as a Jedi, like a true Jedi. And that's like the one wish she has always had, you know. Now it's fulfilled, but it's like at what cost? And she's still got to battle him,
like kill her or lure her in, you know, like
yeah,
that's not what she wants.
Yeah, and I was not suspecting. This also felt very like Anakin Obi-Wan to me, because Shadra cuts off, I believe, F's arm and legs.
Well, F already had the mechanical leg. So
right. Okay.
That's how, like, you know, like in the Village Bride, when she's gonna face off against the Empire there, that's when we get her heel punch. You know, like the heel comes out and then she slides forward really fast. Like that's her mechanical leg. And then we see that earlier in the short as well, when one of the I think it's the other Jedi is helping, who is, I think, what species is Dexter Jetster? I think this I'm gonna get her name. Juna is also that same species, I think. Unless
gotcha, a basilisk. Yes. No, Slay. You're right. Yes, I remember one of those in the short.
Slay. Yeah. So like she knows about it, which is really interesting to me.
Yeah, I was kind of feeling like the Anakin Obi-Wan fight. It felt to me, what if Obi-Wan had turned evil and Anakin had to fight him or something, you know, and maybe by Anakin fighting Obi-Wan recognizes him as a true Jedi master, you know, and Anakin has to fight him off and gets his, you know, so, but I think the wound to F, obviously losing both her legs and an arm, was exactly like Anakin, right? So I kind of thought of that a little bit, but the carbonite freezing of Shadra right at the end was wild.
Such a good.
It's a good way to tie it all together too, right? With the planet and what was going on with the children, right? And I know the children was one of the main themes of this that Hitoshi Haga had talked about, which was like the main theme of this whole episode is that children are our future, right? So not only is F fighting for her own life, but she's also fighting for future generations to come. Like, if she can get through this and fight another day, like she can be there for those who uh, Order 66 and the Empire also impacted, right? It wasn't just the Jedi who are suffering, it's also all the ordinary people across the galaxy who lost relatives or have been impacted by war. And so, where can she make an impact to better the lives of other people? So there's a lot writing on the line for F.
Yeah, and I really also, we've been talking a lot about F and Shadra, but like I also really loved the new characters that we were introduced to, these refugees, Ron, Thep, Lulu. I thought that they're as characters, they were really interesting to watch. And I also liked the setting of this refugee ship. I thought that this was all really well done, really compelling. And I felt like the complexity of the world immediately, even though we're being brought into a different corner of the galaxy than we were in for the Village Bride. I just thought that everything in this one was, again, really well done. And this is like what Star Wars really, really is to me, is like this hopeful feeling, this next generation feeling. I like genuinely think that this short and this story and this character are what Star Wars is at its when you strip back everything, these key themes. This is it to me, and for my experience of Star Wars. So yeah, I really, really, really love this one. Also, we got some sad choral music, which was exciting for me. That's like a random call out, but it's there's a lot in here that pulled back to different elements of Star Wars that I think we love so much. And my thing is I really, really, really hope we see more F in the future. She's someone that I could see getting a series. It could be a Mission of the Week series and we're just helping different people. I think we all deserve more F. I think we all deserve more F. In this essay, I will.
I want to say one call out for F, and I totally agree. I want more F. Her quote, "Getting older isn't the same as growing up. Gather lots of experiences, then you will truly grow up."
Mm-hmm.
It just makes me think again of the duel with the Grandmaster thinking he's a Jedi. It's the same thing of F with her master wanting to grow up, wanting to be a great Jedi, thinking that being older will get her there, right? And they're kind of these through lines that we're seeing is like it's not about imagining a certain endpoint for yourself and thinking when you get there it magically solves all of your other problems. There is a lot of hard work that goes into it, both through how to get there and then once you get there actually continuing to live by the values that you believe in, right? And so for F, she's kind of passing on this knowledge of like, yes, you will grow up one day, things could get better, but like make sure that you go out into the world and seek experience, you seek knowledge, you seek things that you can kind of collect and add to your lived experience that transform you to the person you can become. Like it's about your environment and the people you surround yourself with, not just again like getting to point Z and calling it a day and everything is great. If that made any sense, I don't know, but like
no, it does.
It's like go out into the world is the lesson, but
definitely.
Yeah, love this episode.
And she's helping people by being there.
Yeah. And saving the kids to give them those opportunities to have experience.
Yeah.
And to grow up.
Let's all rewatch The Village Bride and The Lost Ones ASAP and feel good about ourselves.
Shout out to F, by the way, for saving kids in the Star Wars galaxy. The Jedi could never.
Jedi could never. Shout out to our queen, our beloved F, who has never done anything wrong in her whole life and never could.
The Jedi are like slavery on Tatooine. We do not care. F is like, I will be there in 5 minutes.
She's like, actually, I care a lot. Yeah, that's a big deal for me, actually.
She is not like the others. She's built different.
She's better.
Literally, she's literally built different. She's like part robot.
Dude, every time I see her heel, like her heel thrusters, whatever situation in her leg, and I'm like, yeah, that's the baddest bitch alive. Like, she's so cool.
Me, I hate when Star Wars does too much nostalgia. Also, me seeing them throw in the shot of F's heel in this episode, I'm like, ooh, yeah, the good stuff.
Ooh, yeah.
The nostalgia bait. I love it.
Good meal. 5 star, 3 Michelin star.
Well,
Anyway,
hey, while we're on Kinema Citrus, this might actually I might go a little out of order here, but
who
let's talk
cares?
about the other Kinema Citrus short, Yuko's Treasure, directed by
Let's.
Masaki Tachibana. This is about a sheltered orphan who teams with a street rat kid to rescue his droid caregiver and find a long lost treasure. So, this is one of the ones I was so excited about because this is where we meet Billy, the teddy bear with a microwave tummy, who ends up becoming Darth Bear, which no notes. How could we have never thought to have gotten a Darth Bear once in our lifetime? The thing I never knew I needed, but I needed. And this was just such a feel good episode for Visions. It was like the classic kid adventure. It was reminding me of like what was the one from season one? It was TB01. Uh
Toby.
Toby. Yeah, Toby.
I don't
It
know if
kind of
that's the
felt
one
like
was called.
that. Yeah, TOB1,
Oh, it
I
was
think.
called
Yeah.
Toby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this kind of felt reminiscent of that, of like that joyful kid like spirit throughout, with a little bit of danger for the kids to go up against, and some funny adversaries to fight against as well, right? There were some funny shenanigans like with the crate dragon chasing everybody around on its stubby legs. I just thought was one of the funnier images of the episode. There was like a little bit of Baymax in Billy too, of like caring
Oh,
for this kid
100%.
who
Yeah.
has lost both of his parents. Big Hero 6 sort of. Sola and Yuko come together and they kind of go on this adventure to find treasure. And when they get to the depths of where they go to on the planet, they discover that the entire time it was the ship that they were looking for. The ship was the prize. This was the ship that Sola grew up on, and his old room is still there, and his parents
Uh,
had left him. Did I
Yuko.
mean Yuko? Okay, Yuko, yeah. And Yuko's parents had left him the ship to take out into the galaxy, and it serves as a reminder of what he's lost, but also it's a reminder of where he could go. And it was just really it was a little bit emotional at the end. It was a little bit of an emotional pull to, I don't know. If it was a feel good. It was a feel good episode. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. This was super feel good. I loved. I mean, how can you not be immediately endeared to an episode short like this when you see a character like Billy, who is truly the softest, most lovable little guy you've ever seen in your life? Because he's a bear who's also a droid, and he's like 3 times as large as anybody else. Like that's why people love Totoro as well. Like these kind of these characters who look a little out of place in a way. Like um same with Baymax. They all have the same vibe, and that's why we love them. I thought there were like incredible images in this that were so sweet, like Yuko sitting on Billy's head at one point. I thought the style for this of they feel like really young, these characters, both Sola and Yuko, even though Sola is like a little bit older than Yuko. Um, and so to me, Billy had all of this knowledge about where Yuko's parents were and all that stuff, but he seemed to be keeping it all safe and available for Yuko once he grew up. But it's just that they had to, due to circumstances, they got themselves into some shit, had to show him this earlier than expected. And I think it's important for Yuko to have this memory of his parents that he can see in the holograms and in the place where he once lived, and also understand that they really loved him and cared for him, and that's why Billy is there too, to continue that on and make sure that he's nurtured. And like, I just thought this was really sweet. I thought that the idea of the vault and the pit were really interesting. The crate dragon. Crate dragon is I said Acklay cuter relative. Actually in my notes is what the crate dragon was giving. So yeah, I thought this was really good. And like Yuko's parents were good people. They ran food and medical aid. And I think that like the reminder that even through this loss, like there is hope for Yuko's future, and there's like wonder and joy in all of it too, is like really nice.
Yeah, and it's also a reminder to keep pushing forward even through grief. Like
Mm,
there you know, the imagery of this episode, them in these caverns, these dark caverns, right? Like the depths of their despair as they're fighting for their life, and Billy is turning to the dark side, and then they finally find the ship, and they literally go through the light at the end of the tunnel to out into the free world.
Waterfall.
Yeah, like out into the free world, flying into the sky, go into hyperspace, the most like classical cliche Star Wars ending, but always one that makes me feel good on the inside. But it's just, again, that reminder that no matter how painful things can get, no matter how discouraged you might feel, there's always a reason, and you just have to find it to stay positive and keep going forward, you know. And there are going to be a lot of things around you that try to set you back, and I think we all feel that nowadays. You know, things that want to tear us down and make us feel separated and make us feel alone. But there's so much more good in the world than there is bad, and it's just a matter of finding it. So I love friends making friends in the Star Wars. What can I say?
What can you say as the host of Friends of the Force?
Hey, there you go. There you go. That's the synergy. Put $1 in the jar. That's a royalty.
The corporate synergy we're talking about.
Heck yeah. Love my royalties here.
All right.
Sarah,
where do we go from here, Brad?
Let's talk about Black.
Okay.
Because I know you loved Black.
I did. I kept asking everybody under the sun, have you seen Black yet? Have you seen Black yet? Have you seen Black yet? So Black is from David Production, directed by Shinya Ohira, and it is a psychedelic battle between past and present, light and dark, and life and death plays out in the haunted psyche of an Imperial trooper who is at the cusp of defeat. First of all, whoever wrote that sentence, raise for you. What a sentence. What a great single sentence to talk about this particular absolutely freaking insane short. I'll start with like you. What did you think of this when you watched it? What were you like? Were you like, WTF? Just happened?
I was. Yes, I sent you many confused gifs. Not that I didn't like it, not that I didn't appreciate it. I was just like, okay, that was a short. My initial reception was positive. I was like, wow, that was very different. I could see how for many, I could see how for some people, like maybe this wouldn't be their vibe, right? Mm-hmm. Because it is very left field-ish. But I think what this short is successful at doing is showing the reason why Vision's not being strict canon and not taking itself super seriously and allowing itself to push the medium a little bit and to try something weird is for the benefit of us all.
Right.
We don't get Black in the traditional animated series Star Wars Lucasfilm stuff. Like, this is it. This is where we do some experimental weird images transposing on one another kind of death spiral experience of a stormtrooper who is the way I took it was he's on the Death Star has been blown up, and so he's just tripping all the way through to death. He's just gone. Mm-hmm, and then it fades to black, the final darkness that we experience, a deep sleep, right? And so it was just kind of wild to experience this and just be like, what's happening?
Yeah, I was like, I walked away from it being like, yeah, this is the kind of short I go to film festivals for. I'd be like, the most out there, creative, like WTF feeling that you can get from this. And I think of like things like the cave, the mirror cave in TLJ, or also like in Empire, like these kind of very odd out there moments we get with the Force, right? Like that feel spiritual and weird, and off kilter a little bit. And they were like, let's turn that up to 145, you know? And like, that's what Visions gets to do that like even just regular Star Wars animation doesn't get to do. And what I loved about this short, so there's a lot here, I think, to love. And I think despite the chaos of the imagery, there's a clarity of the image between like the red and the green trooper. And there's a clarity of like the way that eyes continue to come back throughout this short, just the imagery of eyes. But what really what really made me go, this is the one, was the music. The subtitle says whimsical jazz plays, and I loved that. But Sakura Fujiwara did the music, and the director said one of his main goals when making the short was to create fully animated backgrounds to match Fujiwara's music. It had 9 scenes and 9 animators, which each animator being allocated to each scene. The animators were a mix of Japanese and foreign animators, and apparently several of the foreign animators were also students at the time that they created this. And what I loved about the animation was that it had this hand-drawn feeling, which also made it feel more off kilter with how the images were placed together. I don't think this one would have worked in the same style that like Yuko's Treasure is in. Like it just wouldn't have. And so I really love this style, and I loved how the music both matched and mismatched with the images on screen. I don't think we associate Star Wars with jazz in a lot of ways. And even when we get jazzy elements in Star Wars, they're a little bit out there for Star Wars, as opposed to the classical John Williams style of music that we get in Star Wars in general, unless it's like diegetic music that's in the scene. Think of the cantinas and stuff, that sort of thing. So I loved the out there jazz so much, and I loved the style so much, and I thought that this was just something completely different. We get this red versus green, and then we get like the Jedi and the Sith, and then we go back to it being the troopers, and then there's a moment of peace at the end, and then we lose it through death. And delicious, incredible.
Yeah, the sound design is really what helps create that disorienting feeling. Like not only the mismatching of the music, but Shinya Ohira had said he really wanted people to feel that this middle-aged man was writhing in pain, exhausted by the battle. And you really feel that with the constant like huffing, grunting noises you hear. It almost felt like, he was fighting with somebody else. Right. And maybe this is like his ego. Like maybe it's one and the same, fighting each other as he hurls toward death. Almost zombified in a way. Like it felt like 2 zombies sort of like clawing and gnawing and biting and scratching, and just this, again, like that writhing in pain, that experience of death. And also there's like flashes of what is lost through death. We get some moments where he is like in a meadow holding hands with a young woman, and they're very, very brief and fleeting. But that idea that your life flashes before your eyes when you die, which I don't want to think about it too hard because I'll start to panic.
No crash outs on the podcast today.
No crash outs about the mortality of us all. But that I think that plays into it, of like he is thinking back on the happier parts of his life, and those are also the calmer moments before we dive back into the chaos and into the disorientation. And there's a little bit of sadness in that, where there is calm within the chaos, but it all ends the same, right? Like it all ends in death.
Yeah, and there is this sadness. There is this deep sadness when we get those peaceful moments and we recognize that, this trooper's life is more than this particular chaotic moment of death, right? And then I think we can, if we want to, think about the troopers who, when we think about Star Wars, not that they're necessarily victims, but if you think about like lost stars and how the people who ended up on the Death Star were there, and that they were young, and it was just the natural thing to do was join that. And it's like there is a lot more life to these people than the maskless soldiers that we see. Good, bad, happy, sad, moral, immoral, all of the above.
And we just read The Last Order by Kwame Mbalia, which was much of the same with the First Order. Right. Young soldiers conscripted through lies and misinformation and gaslighting.
Yeah. And so it's so to have all of these scenes come together, I think are so interesting. I'm watching this as we're talking about it, and it's just such a compelling narrative in its chaos. And I also think that like the soldier, like he's lost an arm, his mask is half torn. There is this like zombie feeling to it, is also just in general really compelling because um we typically see life and death in Star Wars without this level of like gore, for lack of a better word. It's like they get shot with the blaster and then they just fall over and we're done most of the time. So I thought this was an interesting element as well. But I just want to like really hand it to the animators and the director and for putting this all together. It's so different than any other Vision short we've gotten that it really does stand out to me. And it also makes me want to go back and watch Akakiri.
Yeah, Akakiri was kind of in the similar vein, like not to this extent, but that was one of those shorts where I walked away being like, ooh, that was very different and unique.
Yeah, I'm thinking in terms of like the tone of like it felt different than the rest of the shorts in terms it was a little bit like it was darker, it was like a little sadder.
Yeah.
And the tone was just a little bit more sinister than a lot of the really, we were just talking about some of these really hopeful shorts, and I think that season 1 has those too, but I was like, man, this makes me want to go back and kind of watch the more sinister energy in Visions, or the more kind of out there stories. So maybe it's time to go do that. Also, maybe The Elder. We got to go back. We got to watch them all. Why not?
I think what Black teaches us all is just let your freak flag fly.
Let your freak flag fly. And if you want to create a 13-minute short where eyeballs just keep popping up on the screen while a stormtrooper is dying, why not?
Also, AI could never.
AI could never. You're so right. You're so right.
There is no amount of AI slop out there that is better than this. And there will never be. AI could never replicate this.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, real artists. Anyways, we hate certified hate AI here on the podcast.
Obviously.
Yeah, this is great. I love animators doing their thing. It's great. We should support them. Which one do you want to talk about next, Sarah?
That's such a good question. I think we should maybe talk about the Bounty Hunters next.
The Bounty Hunters. From Wit Studio, directed by Junichi Yamamoto.
Yeah, a rogue bounty hunter takes on a job for a shady industrialist that has unexpected consequences for her and her droid.
Ooh. Oh yeah. This was a good one. There was a lot of layers to it, not only between the perception of Jedi in the galaxy, also the capitalism of it all, the slavery of children, and Seven and Ivy A4 at the center of it, trying to navigate life. They are bounty hunters. They're, bounty hunters just want a buck, right? So the story kind of begs the question: how far are you willing to go for money? Are there lines that you will never cross? And we do learn that Seven will not cross the line when it comes to child slavery, and decides to fight back against
2 for 2 in season 3. No child slavery.
Heck yeah. And she fights back against the Onus Corp, which is, I'm imagining, the Amazon of Star Wars.
It's got that vibe. This short is so interesting too, because that original scene opens like with this flashback, and I think that I clocked it right away. I was listening to the lyrics, and that, like 100%, nobody can tell me otherwise, and if anybody does, I think they're wrong, is a dies irae, which is a really, really iconic, it's a Latin phrase, and it's been used in a lot of works. So it was, first in Gregorian chant, and it kind of has a particular melody that it typically follows, and while it doesn't follow that in this, the dies irae, dies illa, that's how it kind of goes. While it typically goes like that in like Mozart's Requiem Mass, Verdi's Requiem, there's always a dies irae and requiems, but it's been in a bunch of other religious, or a bunch of other classical works. it exists in just its lyrics. This is also, if anybody cares, how K-pop Demon Hunters Your Idol opens with a play on the DS E-Ray. Genius. When everybody uses a DS E-Ray, I'm like, there's been nobody smarter in the world. You've done the thing. But it means day of wrath. So DS E-Ray, DS Ila means day of wrath, doom impending. And so I think that in this moment, Seven is really feeling that. She feels like her life is over. Everything is in flames around her. Everything she knows is gone. And so this is the doom impending. But really, it isn't that. It isn't that for her. It is kind of a new beginning for her, or an end where she's able to find a new beginning. And how I interpreted this story is that she was with Basham earlier in her life, or Basham is coming after her. She's associated with Basham. I think that she was enslaved. And so that's why when she realizes that slavery is happening here, or enslaved by Basham, and so that's why she realizes that slavery is happening here, that she can't look away, that she has to do something because she knows the situation that that these young people are in.
Right, because the Jedi also cuts off the oh yes, yep,
yeah. And so it says circumstances robbed you from your parents, and then the Jedi like leave this wicked place and use your skills to do the right thing moving forward. And then she hands her, the Jedi hands her the blaster. And so even though everything is in flames around her, she is able to start anew. And the Jedi says, be free and may the force be with you. So even though this was originally the day of wrath, doom impending, it kind of gets this new feeling by the end of the short, which I thought was really interesting and cool. And there's also just some cool elements in this short, like giant droideka and the 2-personality droid.
Yeah, the big mecha droideka was just no notes. Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
There's this great quote from Yamamoto that says that Jedis can be beings of light and justice, but from another's perspective, that presence can be frightening. I thought it could give us a really effective way to show the growth of our protagonist through her own shift in perspective as she goes from fear to admiration. So I think to your point, when she does realize that there is slavery happening on behalf of the Jonas Corporation, but I thought it was great because this idea of going from fear to admiration, not only of the Jedi and the way that we as viewers perceive the Jedi at the beginning of the episode versus the end when we find out the Jedi is saving her life, not going to take it, but also the fear of the situation that you are in and not running away from what could be hard, right? So for Seven, it would have been very easy for her to turn away and just get a payday and not worry about this as her problem. But because it is so personal, because she can't stand to look at the injustice in the galaxy and thinking about the way that the Jedi saved her, like she wants to extend that forward and pass on that kindness. And ultimately, that's all we can hope for in the Star Wars galaxy, is just continuing to pass that baton forward and extend a hand to those in need. And I loved at the end of this when all the child slaves get to, especially the two sisters, get to reunite with each other, and it was a good ending. And then back they go into the battle at the end with Seven getting chased by some folks. And I just thought it was a good quick adventure with some good growth.
Yeah, really, really interesting at the end. And yeah, I just had a fun time with this one. And
I also love our assassin droid. Like, more assassin's droids? Yeah.
And then he's like, and he turns into mean guy. And he's like, Gil, you got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. I'm going to kill him. And that was great. Really funny.
Yeah. It was making me think of ITO because he's a medical droid also. And I was like, ooh, our little baby boy ITO from Alphabet Squad trilogy.
Bring up Ito, no.
Trauma.
Anyways, read Alphabet Squadron or read chapter 18 of Shadowfall if you want pain and suffering.
Oh man. All right, let's talk about The Bird of Paradise, which is from Polygon Pictures, directed by Tadahiro Yoshihira. And this is about a Jedi who is blinded in battle. She's a Padawan, and she undergoes a series of rituals and trials to overcome the temptation of the dark side.
Ooh.
This was an interesting episode.
This was an interesting episode. I think that my expectation of this episode, which is really interesting to me, because like I went back into my Visions notes from from the panel, and where are they? Visions panel. Guys, the worst thing happened to me ever during the Visions panel is that my pen died, and then I had to take notes on my phone, which I did not enjoy. But I think that my expectation of what this short was going to be, based on kind of what we got and how I interpreted it at the panel, was different than what we ended up getting. And I thought it was really interesting, the difference there, and how we got these different designs. There's this, they talked a lot about the plant, and there's also, they talked about the real world where she wanders, which means that there's a world that's not real, back and forth between the spiritual and the blindly felt worlds. With, I also wrote sacred trees. It's just the other note that I had. And so yeah, this one was very interesting, and it's one that I think I'm gonna have to return to in the future and think more and more about as time goes on.
Yeah, I will say, I don't think it was my favorite of the bunch, but I will say as the episode continued to go on, which I was a little thrown off by the different kind of chapter beats that happen, and it kind of shifts us forward a little bit. So I was trying to keep up with that. But I think by the end, I really started to get more bought into like the animation style and what was going on, because when we see this Padawan fighting essentially her dark side self, I thought that was really fascinating. And the way that they're fighting in this very red, fiery environment, it looked very cool visually by the end, I thought. It kind of, this version of her that represents her immaturity, her impulsiveness, her ego, and her fear of death. And ultimately she learns to not let those emotions rule over her. And she has to sort of kill that side of herself, which doesn't mean death for her, but it allows her to continue forward. So I thought it was really cool visually. I thought the story was, again, also one that I'll probably have to revisit a little bit more. I thought it was really cool though that Tadahiro had talked about how he did a complete light blocking exercise to simulate total loss of sight for himself, and he kept those visions. He says, I kept those visions my brain created close to heart while working with the art and CG teams to build up the visual style step by step. So like this is like method acting for a director of anime. So he went full in and really wanted to have that experience of like, if you were blind and just seeing things through your brain and through your imagination, like what would that look like? And that's kind of what we get on screen, which is why it can be so all over the place in a way, and like lots of different like splotches of colors happening, and you don't really make sense of what you're seeing. So I thought it was really visually interesting.
Yeah, I thought there was I think there's like so much here. There's like actually so much going on in this particular episode. We get this like feather symbolism, which is the symbolism of like feathers are often seen as symbols of hope and freedom. Hope and freedom. And then we get the sort of her moving through the real world, but being able to see in this spiritual world that she's in, and kind of trying to accept herself and fill in the gap between the real world and the spiritual world as she's working to survive. And then we get a couple of quotes that I think are interesting at the end, which I was flailing in a web of my own design. Were you afraid of me too? And then she says, I'd rather lose my life than lose hope. And I thought that was like a great quote. And then she opens her eyes at the end of this with the Force, and kind of gets to start anew in a way. And I thought that was really cool. Even though this short wasn't my favorite, I ended up getting a lot out of it. And that's why I ultimately do want to revisit it in the future and see how it sits with me next time I sit down and watch it. because there's a lot to be said in this story with the symbolism and with the world that she's interacting with and how she's working to survive in kind of a desperate situation. And I'd also like to point out that she's definitely standing on Pride Rock at the end of this episode.
I will say though, the flip of the world in front of her, the way that it changes colors at the end, I thought that was really cool to visually represent, hey, yes, she lost her sight and it feels like her whole world might come crashing down, but it's actually unlocked new potential. And everything,
everything the light touches is her kingdom.
Yes. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I wasn't totally jiving with it right at the start, but I think the further we got into it, I was like, oh, I really see, pun intended, I see the vision here, and I'm with it. So I do want to revisit for sure.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting. I feel like I got to go listen to like what 30 of our Star Wars friends say about it, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, this is what you got out of it. Okay, I'll go back, because that always helps too, is like being in conversation with other people about it. So yeah, I think that brings us to our next short, which has to be The Smuggler from Trigger, which is their studio name, but in all caps. Directed by,
you gotta say it like the Halo voice, Trigger.
Or Dino has a song called Trigger. Anyway, shout out to Dino. This short is directed by Masahiko Otsuka, and it says, desperate for a quick payday, a smuggler takes a job to rescue a fugitive from the Empire, which I think that's understating the whole situation. Whereas like Black, I think accurately stated the situation. This one is understating the situation a little bit.
Listen, the only note I have is wrist holster in all caps.
Oh yeah, Gleenu and her badass wrist holster. She's like, I keep it secret in here, nobody knows.
Listen, when a lightsaber came out of her freaking wrist, I was like, what in God's name? There is nothing ever going to be cooler than that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So this one's really cool because Trigger previously did The Elder in season 1. And I think Otsuka also directed The Elder, if I'm not mistaken. He said he was retiring, but that was lies.
That was a lie.
That's a lie. He was back.
Welcome back, King.
And so when he was creating this piece, he thought of Han Solo. And the design of the main character, Cheetah, became something similar to that. And so I thought that was really cool. And you really get that in this episode and kind of Cheetah's energy. And I loved this short. I really loved this short. I thought it was really cool, even beyond the wrist holster for the lightsaber. I said major slay. This one is like close to canon, which I think overall a lot of the stories in this particular season feel close-ish to canon. We get Cheetah and Order 66 has happened. I feel like we're getting this Ba Sing Se vibe, like there is no war in Ba Sing Se. In this episode, we get the prince who is beautiful, and this heroic rescue. I said the characters in the short are pretty because they're all pretty. Whereas, like, I feel like if you look back at the Elder, he was a little.
He was very not pretty.
Not pretty. Not ugly, but like just not pretty. And the characters in this short are
would
very
swipe
pretty.
left on the Elder for sure.
Yeah. But I just thought that like Arlo and Gleena and Cheetah were all really fun characters. I enjoyed this one a lot more than I had expected to when I clicked on it and started it. And so that was like a real delight for me.
Yeah, I also thought it was just a good episode, like an all-around episode to show the tyranny of the Empire and what they're doing to populaces around the galaxy. You and I will forever be Andor brained, so seeing them take folks off the street here who look like the prince, and where do they take those people? What happens to them? And then Arlu deciding that he can no longer stand those injustices happening, right? So stepping into the rescue and trying to help these his people fight for their freedoms, right? And so I thought it was just a really like simple story about kind of that David versus Goliath, freedom versus oppression idea, um, and how small acts from individuals can push that compass and push that needle in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think this story ended really hopefully as well. I think we get a lot of these in this season, which feel really warm. And also there's like this moment between Sheeta and Arlu, and you're like, ooh, what's the energy
Yeah.
here? That's kind of
Yeah.
fun.
Arlu got on one knee and I was like, wait, what? Is he gonna propose? And he's like, no, want to join the rebellion? And I was like, bruh.
There's a lot of hopefulness in that too. I don't know. I really enjoyed this one, but it is Cheetah. I need you now more than ever. Come with us. But this is why is it romantic? And he's like, I wish to liberate the youth. Which again, no more children slavery, no more children in bad situations. Which these are good messages. These are good messages. And then we've got Glinu, who's like, she's like leaving room. She's like, make sure you leave room for Jesus in all of your interactions. Actually, is her vibe at the end of this, which I love. But yeah, it feels really hopeful. It feels really great. I'm glad that director Otsuka came out of retirement to make this short. I hope that if the inspiration strikes him, he'll come out of retirement again. That brings us to our very last short.
Oh, yes.
And this short is actually the first short I watched of the season, thanks to Brad, who said, Sarah, I think you should watch this one first. Correct answer. Thank you, Brad. Which brings us to Project Studio Q's The Song of Four Wings. This episode is directed by Hiroyasu Kobayashi. A princess turned rebel protects a child from the might of the empire on a snowbound planet. Like, the Star Wars canon is everywhere here.
Yes.
But then it gets put together in a very non-canon sort of way. So what were your thoughts on this one, Brad?
This is my second favorite. If not maybe the first favorite. I could go back and forth between this and Lost Ones. Mm-hmm. This one's just so good all around because Crane is very reminiscent of Princess Leia, both with her outfit and the hair that she has that is styled in the same way Leia has hers on Bespin, right? We get this child rescue story of Whoopus, who is so cute. He is a Gagoran, and he's just a little adorable guy who throws rocks at stormtroopers, which we must stan. I love Whoopus. But also there's this like rich background to Crane and what her mother went through in order to save her and her sacrifice and leaving her a paper crane, which I'm assuming is where she gets her name from. Or maybe it's just her name and her mother made her paper cranes because that was her name. But I loved it because it was so heartfelt and also off the walls, bonkers,
badass,
crazy. Like, it was just going all sorts of directions between the AT-ATs busting out through the ice and the many seismic charges, the mecha suit with the X-Wing style mecha suit. There's just so many things going on, and it was just like, wow, that escalated quickly, and I loved every second of it. This is just exactly what I wanted. It was so good. I will rewatch this multiple times because it's just great Star Wars. It's fantastic.
It's fun because it's like all the references to the canon were like very clear and visually present on the screen. And then it's like this is the short that feels like playing with your action figures and coming up with the craziest thing you can possibly come up with. And I think there's room for that in these stories too. And so I really loved Crane, and I loved her visual style between the like clearly the princess and the Leia of it all, her in the white with like some of the stormtrooper elements, which I thought was really neat. I love the fact that we get this R2 droid that plays her playlist, which also brings me back to like Chasna Chaddock. In
top tier subtitle, funky electronic music playing. Top tier.
Yes, the funky electronic music. Yeah, and so I really loved that. I loved this Whoopas, this baby that we meet, his little slingshot guy. Like, I think the story here is really clear, and then we just get like the absolute balls to the wall crazy series of events. Like the droid comes apart, and I thought of uh Jama Ram's droid who flew on the cover of Race to Crash Point Tower, very legendary, very iconic. I thought about my love for seismic charges and how like my brain just explodes every time there's a seismic charge. Like I love this stuff, and so I had so much fun watching her be a badass and save this kid and also just get to be a hero. And she got to do it all in this episode, and I really had so much fun with it. I had so much fun with it.
Sarah, you only get to save one. Is it Whoopus or is it Grogu? Choose your words carefully.
It's Whoopus. I don't know what to tell you.
Don't let Grogu hear that.
Well, Grogu can hear it.
There's a movie coming out.
You realize
Grogu's taking you off the invite list.
He thinks he's all that, but he's only some of that. Anyway, I had so much fun watching this episode with you, and I had so much fun watching this episode in general. I feel like this was just, it reverted me back to my childhood self of like my love for the sound effects of the prequels, really.
Yeah, I mean, seeing your reaction to the many seismic charges was pretty great.
I was having the time of my life. I don't know what to tell you.
And it's just great because they're like, you know what's great? Seismic charges. You know what's even better? Many of them.
Yeah, and they're like AT-ATs.
Yeah,
she's
let's
flying
just throw
around.
20.
I don't know. I loved how she got to be a hero. I loved how the droid helped. I loved that Whoopas helped. I loved that the story was both small and big at the same time. And it was just fun. I had so much fun. I love having fun. Visions is fun.
Visions is fun. I think that being said, with all the fun that we've had with Visions this season, do you think we will get a season 4?
I think we have to. We can't stop Visions. I'm going to knock on James Waugh's door myself if he stops Visions and be like, sir, please bring Visions back. That's how I will make my case. But the reality to me is like Visions is infinite. If they want to pick up Visions in 5, 10, 15 years, 2 years, 1 year, 6 months from now, whatever time frame, it will be this, it has this sort of timelessness to it because it doesn't have to stick in any particular spot. And so I hope that whether they stick with Japanese anime studios or do what they do in season 2 and branch out to other types of animation across the world on other studios, I hope that Visions gets to continue. And I hope that if a director feels that there's more story to tell with the story that they made, that they get an opportunity to tell it. Like, this is me just being like, I think we should get an F series. I think we should. I would love to see that. But, I would be open and welcome to seeing more from the smuggler, more from Crane, more from Yuko. Who knows? I think that there's more story to tell for any and all of these shorts. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, it could venture into, oh, if it's successful as an animation, we should make it as a live action, and that's not what I mean. I just think that there's such a rich world, in every single one of these stories that we've gotten across the past 3 seasons. And I think that the opportunity to see more from these directors in a Star Wars format that doesn't have to be so strict would be a gift. And that's why I am ultimately really looking forward to the Ninth Jedi series, because who knows what it'll bring. And I hope it will be just as interesting and complex as the first 2 episodes of this Ninth Jedi story have been.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I want to see Visions continue by any means necessary. I hope from a cost perspective, because that's ultimately what those decisions always come down to. I hope Visions is relatively inexpensive to make, to the point where they can continue to just pump it out, maybe once every year or once every 2 years. I'm not sure when Visions Ninth Jedi is coming. I think it's next year, I believe, 2026.
It is next year, 2026. Yeah.
So maybe that bridges the gap between Visions season 4 and 2027. But I think, yeah, I like ultimately, I get tired to a point when Star Wars begins to feel like Wikipedia entry after Wikipedia entry, and this very like strict adherence to canon and trying to tie all the things together in sort of this like big shared universe where it's like, oh, that thing connects to that thing and that person connects to that person. Visions is just great because I can just sit down and turn that part of my brain off and just enjoy something and not have to think about, okay, how does this connect and how does this fit into that? It's just like, it's just good. It's just entertaining. I can just sit down and eat some popcorn and have a great time and be visually stunned through a medium that often feels like it's just being replaced by live action remakes and animation is cinema, and we should stop fixating on turning everything into live action.
At Disney, at Moana.
Yes, like a movie that is not even 10 years old is just wild to me that we're live action-ifying it.
Shot for shot in the trailer, crazy.
Yeah,
very bonkers. What is a
very bizarre choice. But anyway. I just love when we can remove ourselves from that adherence to canon, have some fun, do some wild and zany things visually, and just worry about telling a fun, good story and throw everything else out. So
yeah,
here's hoping for more visions, and I'm very excited to hopefully talk more about Ninth Jedi with you on the pod.
It'll happen.
Is Tito alive?
Is Tito alive?
Somehow
no.
Tito returned? No? Okay.
I don't think somehow Tito returned.
Ah, dang. I thought there was maybe a chance, but
yeah.
Lo and behold, you dashed my hopes.
Sorry.
Wow.
There has to be one cynic on this podcast.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, we hope you, listener, are not a cynic and want to continue tuning into this here podcast on Friends of the Force. You can find us on all of our socials, mainly Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. Follow us on the podcast feed of your choice, subscribe, get our episodes coming up, and leave a review if you enjoyed the episode and want to tell us some nice things during this holiday season. Are you thankful for us? Let us know. We're thankful for you.
Yeah, seriously, we are thankful for you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to our podcast, for joining us in all of our conversations, whether it be about visions or anything else we talk about. Very, very grateful that this podcast continues to podcast. And I hope that you are having a restful and as stress-free as possible holiday season. May you listen to some lovely Christmas time jazz. If you like Wicked, there's an album of jazz tunes that are based on the Wicked songs called Wicked Lee. Recommend, really, really recommend. It's not Christmassy, but maybe it is. So yeah, with that, thank you so much to everybody, especially to our patrons who help keep the lights on. So they are Abigail, Andy, Ben, Brian, Cheryl, Clay, David, Emma, Ian, Jennifer, Josephine, Katie, Knights of Ren, Krista, Logan, Lindsay, Matthew, Nicole, Rob, Ruth, Santa, Skytalkers, and Theglyph. We are very grateful for your support. Hope you are staying healthy as well this holiday season.
Absolutely. Thank you all once again. Until next time, may the Force be with you always.